Okay, so thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here. Helsinki, I have learned right now the rule number 1. I should not rely on Google Maps to get directions here. My name is Maximiliano, right? You can call me Max, that's okay. Or Maxi if you want, that's the Spanish version. I'm from Argentina, right, originally, and I lived there. But in this case, I was coming from California. And yeah, this is a hell of a trip in this particular case because I've left home last week and I will come back in 4 weeks. And this is like California, now Finland, Latvia, Estonia, Italy. Then I'm going to States again. I'm going to Oklahoma City and then to San Francisco and then go back home. So I have written some books. This is a bit of a lie because you have a couple of translations here, like Russian and Chinese. The original 2 ones in English are Programming the Mobile Web, 2nd edition, and jQuery Mobile Up and Running, both from O'Reilly Media. And I'm also the creator of mobilehtml5.org, that right now is one of the only resources where you can find all the mobile platforms and HTML5 compatibility per API or ability. Right? And by the way, since 2006, right, I'm a Nokia developer champion, right? So it's funny to be here right now at this Nokia moment. So yeah, I have been renewed in that program for 8 years now, but it seems that this is going to be the last year of that program. So questions, yes, please. We'll have plenty of time at the end. So any question about the topics we are going to cover here or about any other topic on HTML5 on mobile devices, that's okay. Don't worry, you can ask wherever you want. You can insult me if you want. You can insult me in Finnish and I will not care about that. So we will talk about first a quick introduction on where we are in mobile HTML5. And then the idea of breaking limits, it's basically talking about some hacks that you can use right now to break some limits on HTML5 on your web apps, on your websites. Then we're going to talk about this thing that I'm wearing right now, right? We're going to talk a little bit about Google Glass. If you want to get more information, I can add more information to that. Here I have like a quick introduction for developers to the Google Glass platform, right? Okay, so how many of you are HTML5 developers or designers? Probably everybody here is using at least one of the HTML5 technology, CSS, right, SVG, JavaScript, HTML. How many of you are doing mobile apps? Okay, just 30%, right? So for the 30% and maybe for the 70% too, so mobile development, even when you go to a company with your customer or even your manager and you're talking about mobile development, usually this idea appears like, okay, we can create websites for mobile or we can create apps, right? It's like, okay, we are going with apps, we are going with websites. But the reality, right, is that we are using HTML5 on website, but the reality is that it's a bit more complex than this. So, and let me explain why. Of course that with HTML5, we can create websites, right? We all know what a website is, but just to remember a few things, the user is opening the browser, the user is typing a URL or getting the URL for a social network or from a search engine, and we are hosting the files on the web server. But we can also create web apps. So have you ever created a web app? Okay, we have like 5 or 6, but the second question is, what is a web app, right? What is the concept of a web app? So unfortunately, in the community, there are no clear definitions here. So that's basically adding some confusion to the whole mobile web thing. But for now, let's say like web apps in the community, today mobile web apps at least, they have some specific abilities. And that's basically the ability to run in full screen mode. And I will show you some examples. So I didn't ask if there is Wi-Fi here. But basically, we can install this to the home screen, right? And then we have a full screen experience, and we have an icon on the home screen. It can run offline, right, using some HTML5 APIs such as application cache, and we still need a web server, right? So that's the idea. Have you ever seen the Financial Times web app? If you have not tried, it's app.ft.com. It's available for iOS and other platforms, but try it on iOS. So it's really interesting to see how it works, right? So because from a user's perspective, it's just an app, right? It's installed, you have an icon, it's full screen. There is no browser UI, like there is no URL bar. You don't have any toolbar like the back button, the forward button, but it's still HTML5 and it's still hosted on your web server. Sometimes these web apps are also known as full screen web apps or home screen web apps, okay? And finally, we have native web apps. That the main difference here is that we are using the App Store, right? We are going through the store. It can be the App Store, the Google Play Store on Android, or the Windows Marketplace. So here the difference is that we package, compile, and sign the app. We still have an icon on the home screen, but we are going through an app store. And we don't need a web server. So that's the main difference between web apps and native web apps. Okay, so as you can see, it seems like a mess in terms of names. It's still more complicated because native web apps sometimes are known as hybrid apps, right? Or packaged web apps. So it depends on who is talking, on which platform are we creating apps for. The name might be different, okay? So it's not just websites and apps, it's a bit more complicated. We have websites and we have apps in three different ways. I mean, from a user's perspective, we have websites or apps. From a developer's perspective, right, we have on the app side, we have three different ways to create apps. Native app, full native app, so using Objective-C for iOS, Java for Android, etc., .NET for Windows Phone. Web apps, like the Financial Times example, that if we get connection later, I will show you that working at the end. And native web apps. So if you can check, for example, the Wikipedia app. The Wikipedia is a really webby app. I mean, it's just web content. But the Wikipedia native app for iOS, Android, Windows Phone, and BlackBerry is basically HTML5. It's based even on the same source code. They have some differences per platform, so they can adapt the UI to some specifics to the different OSs, but basically it's the same source code and it's open source. So you can get that code from GitHub. And when we talk about web platforms, right? So targets for our development, how many browsers do you know on desktop? 5, 6, 6, 7 is like, okay, you know a lot of browsers. But yeah, but let's say Opera, our friend IE, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, blah, 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 blah. So let's say 5, it can be 6, 7. But how many browsers do you know on mobile? That's a bit more complicated, and let me explain why. This is just one of my 43 devices I own at the time, right? It's just one Android device. And these are all the browsers that I have right now on mine. In fact, it's an old picture because now I have more browsers on just one device, right? Of course, that maybe we can discuss later about the stats, right? Stats. Okay, maybe not every user is using Firefox on Android. So we have the Android browser. How many of you are using Android browser as your default browser? It depends on the device. So, well, the next question is, which browser is Android browser? Android browser is not Chrome, right? So Google Chrome is a different browser than Android browser. Android browser is the stock browser that came with every Android device. Even if you have, for example, some Samsung devices or even a Nexus device, maybe the Android browser is not there. You have the Chrome icon only, but the Android browser is there because it's part of the OS. Basically, you don't have the icon. But Android browser is the default browser on Android. It's basically different to Chrome, and it's a mess. Because, for example, do we have any Samsung Galaxy S4 users here? Okay, there are a few at the back. So those of you on the S4, Android browser, it seems to be Android browser, but it's a different browser. It's based on Chromium. So it's basically similar to Chrome, but it has different compatibility to Chrome, right? And it's not Android browser. But for many of the stats website, they say that it's the Android browser. So from a developer's perspective, it's sometimes difficult to follow all these ideas. Even talking about Android browser, on every version of Android browser, the browser is basically different. I'm still talking about Android browser 2.2 and 2.3, and maybe you know that it's an old version of Android. But I'm not sure if you're aware that still today, more than 30% of the Android users out there are using Android 2. And that information, you can get that information from the Android website. You can Google Android dashboard, and you will see live information about Android versions. And you know, on iOS, it's not exactly the same, right? Because you get updates more frequently. And let's say that if you have a device that has at least or less than 3 years old, you will get updates always. The dimension is not Google Chrome, right? That is really important because sometimes we think that because it's Android and because it's Google, we're using Chrome. And it's not Chrome in terms of compatibility, in terms of performance, in terms of what we can do with the browser. Then, of course, we have Google Chrome, right? And Google Chrome is available on Android, of course, Android 4. And it's also available on iOS. Do we have any users of Chrome on iOS here? Okay, we have a few. So do you know that Chrome on iOS is not Chrome? So it sounds weird, but basically Chrome on iOS, it's not Chrome. It has the Chrome UI, it has the Chrome icon, it has the Chrome sync option, so you can sync your tabs and your user preferences, but basically it's not the Chrome engine. It's the Safari engine, right? Why is that? So it's not Google's fault. It's basically an Apple restriction. So there is a rule on the App Store that says that you cannot upload apps on the App Store that has a different engine than Safari. That's why there is no Firefox for iOS. The Mozilla team has decided to not do the same as Chrome. They don't want to just create like an empty shell that says Firefox and it's not Firefox inside. So Google Chrome on iOS, it's not Google Chrome. In fact, do you know what the user agent is? How a browser identifies itself to the server? Chrome on iOS is not identifies itself as Chrome. It says Safari, and then it says Krios, C-R-I-O-S. Right? Because it's not Chrome really. So if on the server side you're asking for the Chrome keyword and you're sending Chrome specific markup, then it will not work there because it's not Chrome. We have, of course, Safari on iOS. That's the browser inside the iPhone and the iPad. We have Opera, and Opera, it's available in different versions like mobile, mini, and now Opera for Android. So there are different versions of Opera. We have Firefox, right, as the browser that you can download for Android that it's not going well in terms of people downloading it. And you have Firefox OS, that was the next slide. So here you have a Firefox OS device, right? Firefox OS, it's, let me try to zoom in a little bit the camera. So Firefox OS, it's a full HTML5 OS. So basically that means that everything, even the animation that you are seeing here, right? Oops, I don't want the camera. So everything here, right, this animation, it's basically a CSS3 transition. So everything is HTML5, including the menu, including everything. Let me try to focus this a little bit. So every app that you can create here is basically a web app. So the same concept that I told you before. So it's a web app. It's HTML5, and you have a little manifest. It's a JSON file where you say, okay, I want this icon, I want this name in the applications menu. So every app here, including the calendar, it's HTML5. Even you can replace it. So this one is, oops, sorry. So this is basically HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript. Right. So this is not a platform that is trying to compete with iOS or Android at this point. It's trying to compete maybe with Asha, with Nokia Asha platform, right? With feature phones or social phones that are cheap phones, right? So that's why you're going to see, if you try that later, you can see that it's not a big screen, right? It's not the resolution is not even the best compared with Android and iOS, because again, it's optimized for cheap devices, at least at this point. And it has arrived in the market in the last 3 months. It's in some countries in Latin America. I think it's in Poland, and it's going to the States and other countries in Europe and Asia in the following month. It's trying to get a new market. So it's not trying to get people that go from iPhone or Android to Firefox OS. It's trying to get people from a feature phone to Firefox OS. Then we have our friend, right, IE, that is available in different versions, because we have IE for Windows Phone and IE for Windows 8, right? That is not the same, for example, for a tablet, for a Surface, or for the new Nokia tablet. I don't remember the name, 25 something, but it's coming. We have BlackBerry browser, and the BlackBerry browser, you have the old BlackBerries, right, with the keyboard, and you have the new BlackBerries, the BlackBerry 10 and the Playbook, right? That, again, a different browser. So here I have a BlackBerry 10.2 device, so it's this red device here I have. So it's full touch, right? There are some devices with keyboard like the Q5 or the Q10, and the browser is different than the previous BlackBerries. Nokia browser, but Nokia browser, it's available from Symbian, right? Rest in peace. And it's different than the Migo, rest in peace too, right? And even the Selfish OS, right, from Yola, the Finnish company that is continuing the Migo. The browser that they are using is not the same as the Nokia browser, because I think that part was not open source. And the Nokia browser on Series 40 and now on the Asha platforms are basically not the same. They have the same name, Nokia browser, but they are not the same browser, right, in terms of what we can do with the browser, in terms of compatibility. Silk, have you heard about Silk? It's a browser. Amazon Silk, it's from Amazon. It's the browser inside the Kindle Fire family, tablets from Amazon, and possibly phones in the future. UC Web, have you heard about UC Web? So basically, around 8% of the whole global browsing market share from a mobile device is from UC Web. Have you tested your website on UC Web? So UC Web is the default browser on most Chinese devices and Indian devices, right? There is an English version for Android if you want to try. Dolphin, have you heard about Dolphin? I'm pretty sure that no. You have heard about Dolphin with PH, probably, not with F. Probably. Maybe you know the F one, but Dolphin with PH, it's for Android. But Dolphin with F, it's another browser that comes with Samsung feature phones, right? It's not the same. So should I continue, right? Can you get the idea that this is not as easy or as simple as on the classic, or let's say classic web development, to not talk about desktop web development, right? So this is just to give you an idea that the mobile web environment is really difficult, it's really complicated, or more complicated than before. And there are some browsers that are proxy browsers, that sometimes we can call them cloud-based browsers. Have you heard about this? You know Opera Mini, for example? Opera Mini and Nokia Express browser, both are cloud-based browsers. That means that when you're browsing the web using these browsers, you're not downloading the files from the web server and executing and parsing those files on the device. So all those files are being parsed on a proxy on the web from Opera, from Nokia, or from Amazon, right? And the device is getting a compressed, already rendered version of the website. So for example, if you have a JavaScript on-click event handler, right, it needs to go to the server, to the proxy, to execute the on-click handler, because there is no JavaScript engine client side. So you need to understand that you're going to deal with this. And Amazon Silk and Chrome for iOS and Android, both iOS and Android, they have optional, let's say, abilities that you can enable. That it's acceleration mode or saving mode or something like that. And if you enable that feature, you will go through Google or Amazon Cloud when you're browsing the web. So you are using less data because it's compressed and blah, blah, blah. But from a developer's point of view, you need to understand that you're going to deal with these browsers, right? So be careful when you're dealing with these browsers. And it's not just the browsers, I'm sorry. There is also something called the web view, right? So how many of you have played with a web view before? Okay, are you happy with that? So first, what is a web view? A web view is like, because it's not exactly that, but it's like a browser inside a native app. Okay? So it's like a browser inside a native app. You can see that, for example, on Facebook, on iOS, Facebook on iPhone, Twitter also. So when your friend is sharing a link and you click on a link, the link is not being opened inside Safari. It's being opened inside Facebook. And that's basically a web view. Okay, it's not Safari, it's a web view. You can see the web view also in Chrome. Remember Chrome on iOS? That I told you the bad news that Chrome on iOS is not Chrome? Well, it's the web view. And finally, if you have heard about PhoneGap or Apache Cordova, right, as a framework to create HTML5 native web apps, that's basically also the web view with some things around. We have some official web app platforms also from BlackBerry, from Chrome, from Windows to use HTML5. Also, Asha, Tyson, and Ubuntu for phones, like new platforms, they also support HTML5 app creation. So as you can see, it's not so simple, right? So, and then we have an unknown future. So do we know how the web development ecosystem will be in 5 years, right? What happens with the glass? Will it work or not in the community? I mean, in the society. So the thing is that we don't know. But
don't you tell it won't be called glass? Glass is not a glass. But
yeah, except for now at least. But there are some glasses here, so I can add some glasses. Let me show you. So if you want the glass, you can add the glass if you want. Or there is the Terminator mode. Terminator mode is basically this one, right? So you can add some glasses if you want. But it doesn't matter if it's glass from Google or glass from Microsoft or whatever. Are we going to be developing websites for smartwatches? Right? The thing is that we don't know. That's why sometimes you need to think your websites, your web apps in a different way. You need to create web apps and websites for the change, because you know that everything is going to change. So, and then we need to use hacks, right? Why? Because it's a mess, right? The whole ecosystem is a mess. And sometimes we need to hack, right, the I mean the system, in this case HTML5. I'm not saying that you should develop everything using hacks, right? Because it's not too future friendly. But in this case, this talk is about breaking limits. And for breaking some limits, we need to hack sometimes the platforms. So usually I want to say, or I like to say that mobile web development and mobile development in general is like walking in a minefield, right? Have you ever walked in a minefield? No, me neither. But basically the idea is that when you're walking there, you usually don't feel safe enough, right? And you are like making steps and you're not really sure. So did you have that feeling like, okay, I'm doing an app with HTML5, but I'm not sure why I will use PhoneGap, but it's like, I don't know, or jQuery Mobile, or SendChat, or maybe native, or what. It's like you don't see like a clear path there. It's like that's usually the feeling of the mobile development. So let's start seeing some hacks, right? So I have like different categories of hacks. The first is hacking the UI, right? How you can hack the UI on some specifics. So first, let's start talking about full screen. So if you want to get full screen, why do you want to get full screen? Because sometimes, for example, you have a game, and for a game experience, you don't want those URL bars and toolbars around, right? So there are 3 solutions out there right now. Previously, a few months ago, there were a 4th one, but now with iOS 7, it's not working anymore. So we have 3 solutions. The first one is working on iOS, and now, or maybe not now, tomorrow, it's going to be working on Chrome and Android, because now it's available on Chrome Beta. So that it's basically, maybe you know this, it's using a meta tag, right? And with this meta tag, it will convert your website to a full screen experience if the user adds the website to the home screen. So that's the basic of the Financial Times example I've showed you before. Well, I have 3G here, so maybe I can show you this on my Android phone. So here on my Android phone, right? So this is the home screen. And you will see, let me try to focus the camera, that I have some icons at the end, my web app, right? And these are basically examples I was testing here. These icons are basically full screen web apps. So you can see that from an OS perspective, it's an app. Unfortunately, it says web app, right? But it's not Chrome. I mean, you have Chrome and the web app, and each app you have looks like a different app. And this is basically using Chrome Beta. Let me show you that I wasn't lying. This is my new browser icon in my Android. And I have Chrome Beta, Chrome 31. And from Chrome 31, you have this Add to Home Screen option, right? Similar to the iOS option. And when you add to the home screen, if you have a meta tag, right, then when you open the icon, it will be full screen, no Chrome UI. And from an OS perspective, it will look like a different app, not like something running inside Chrome or inside Safari. Right now, this is the Apple one, right? That's why it's saying Apple. Chrome is supporting the Apple, but Chrome suggests to use the unprefixed version. So it's the same thing without the Apple dash, right? So you can add both, and Chrome says that in the future, they will remove support for the Apple dash. Now you can use this for Chrome. On iOS, this is not on Chrome, but I was talking with the Chrome team, and they're trying to bring this to Chrome too in the future. On iOS, there is a property, JavaScript Boolean property, that is navigator.standalone, that will give you the information if you are running inside Safari or inside the full screen icon. So for example, if you are not running a full screen icon, you can suggest or invite the user to install the app, right? And that's a lot of apps are doing that right now, or games using this technology. Let me talk about this later. I'm not sure why it's here. So sometimes you can have like different. Do you know what the viewport is? It's a declaration for creating a mobile viewport. So instead of having a desktop website zoomed out, you can have a right mobile experience. So you can have different media queries inside the viewport for iOS, for example. This is the media query for iOS 5 and 5S and 5C, so the larger iPhones. So this is how it looks like. Again, when you have, this is a website pattern sun. So when you access the website, it just says to you, add to your home screen. When you add this to the home screen, you get an icon as an app. And when you open the app, it's full screen, right? No Chrome UI. There is no browser UI. So the second solution works on Firefox. That means Firefox OS and Firefox for Android, BlackBerry, and Amazon Silk. It's basically, let's say, the standard solution for full screen. It's requesting full screen. It's the full screen HTML5 API that unfortunately is not available on Chrome and Android, and it's not available on iOS yet. The big problem, this is the, like, here we are asking if the property is available, and if it's available, we are running that. The problem is that right now it's prefixed on some browsers. So we need to ask, okay, maybe it's the WebKit version or maybe it's the Mozilla version. So that's the only restriction you have to get full screen. Remember, we are trying to get the full screen experience. So for a game or an immersive experience, it will be better. The third solution is available on Android browser. And it's used by Google Maps. But that is basically doing this, right? It's hiding the toolbar and you're getting a full screen, and then it's with care, it's preventing the move. So basically it's hiding the URL bar and it's preventing you to get the URL bar again unless you press the menu or something like that, right? So it's the only way to get the full screen on Android browser. So have you ever played with Windows 8 before? So on Windows 8, right, I'm not sure if you like this or not, but you can open two apps at the same time, two Windows 8 apps at the same time. So for example, you can have IE on one side, right, and any other website on the other side. The problem is that when your website is running inside a small window, by default, Windows 8, even if it's not a mobile phone, acts like a mobile browser. So basically, as you can see here, it's zooming out the page, right? And it's not, but you can, if you want, on that particular case, create a mobile version, even if it's not a mobile phone, but it looks like a mobile viewport. I mean, in terms of width, it's like a phone, right, on your desktop or on your tablet with Windows. So you can use a media query and say something like this. Okay, if the width is less than 400 pixels, the width of the IE window at this point, then you change the viewport. And this is something that is working on Microsoft right now only. It's the add viewport with an MS prefix. So you can change the viewport on media queries. So in that case, you can have a desktop website when you are running in a full IE, and when you are running in this mode, instead of showing a desktop website, right, you can show a mobile website or a website optimized for that particular case. Even if you're using responsive web design, you need to add this. If not, it will not work. Because for a responsive web design perspective, IE will expose a desktop window, right? So be careful with that. Snap mode, that's the name of this feature of Windows 8. High resolution canvas. How many of you have played with Canvas, the Canvas API for gaming or charting? Okay, so quite a few. Basically, I'm not sure if you knew this, that basically Canvas are low definition always by default. So that means that when Canvas is basically an HTML5 element that allows us to use JavaScript to draw directly on that particular rectangle, right? So this is the case. So The problem is that those 300 pixels width basically are are expressed in a new unit. It's not new, right? But it's new for most of us, called CSS pixels. Do you know that CSS pixels are not real pixels anymore, at least? So that means when you are drawing 300 pixels, it depends on the device. It will draw 390, 450, 600, blah, blah, or 900 on the S4. Because there is a concept called the pixel radio. The pixel radio is a multiplier, right? That basically multiplies all your dimensions out automatically. So what happens with the canvas? Well, the canvas, by default, for example, on the iPhone 5, Retina iPhone, by default is pixelated. So you draw, by the way, you have the same shirt there, right? You have the same Pac-Man there. And it's pixelated too. If you have a chart or a game or something on the iPhone 5 or on the iPad Retina, right, on any device, it's not just for phones, you have this problem that you are not getting all the pixels for you. It's basically resizing your canvas. So how can we solve this problem? I'm not sure if you had this problem before, if you are even aware of this problem before. So you know that there is this device pixel radio property that gives you the multiplier. Okay? But there is also a canvas value that is called backing store pixel radio that will tell you if the browser is multiplying the canvas or not, right? So using both, on the iPhone 5, the pixel ratio is 2, but the canvas is 1. That means that the canvas is not taking advantage of the retina, right? That's the idea. So we need to solve that. That's the hack. How to hack this? Well, by the way, in Firefox on Android, that value doesn't exist. But it's 1 anyway. So 1 or undefined means it's a low resolution canvas. So solution number 1, that is not so nice, but it works. It's basically doubling the viewport. So if you say that now my viewport is 640 and now you draw a canvas of 600, now it will be a high resolution canvas. But it's not so nice because not every device right now give you 320 by default when you use device width. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but it depends on if you have, for example, do we have any Samsung Galaxy Note user here? Okay, you have a big pocket, right? So the Note, when you're using a viewport saying width equals device width, will expose to the website 400 pixels. Why? Because it's wider than an iPhone, right? So that's why instead of just giving you the same value, so you just design the same experience, you have more pixels for you, for example, fitting more text. And then if you're using a fixed value here, you don't know what will happen on those devices. The second solution is this. The canvas has a function called set scale, where I can set a scaling. So if you set a scale to 2, you get this graphic. So it's a high resolution Pac-Man, but it's not the right picture, right? So next, we need to increase the size of the canvas, but now it's out of the space that we originally wanted. So finally, we use CSS to reduce again the size, and now you have a high resolution canvas. Okay, so that's how you get a high resolution canvas. Again, if you're using a corporate application and you have a chart, then your chart looks like ugly on an iPhone 5, or even uglier on a Samsung Galaxy S4 that has a 3 pixel radio. The same for a game. Be careful of the multi-platform. For example, not always, and in this case I'm using 2, right, 300 and 600, but for a DS4 it should be 3. So try to make this a multi-platform solution. and multi-resolution. And be careful about memory because and execution, because now you have a bigger canvas, so calculations for circles, animations will take more time. So you need to test if your game is still fluent, for example, on some devices. And maybe on some devices you should keep the low resolution canvas. Okay, so now let's go to something more basic. Let's talk about the numeric field. So I'm pretty sure that most of you have seen already the HTML5 new input types, right? For example, input type number. Though on Android, you will get a nice numeric keypad, right, for an input type number. However, on iOS, right, the input type number looks like this. So it's numeric at the beginning, but then you can jump, right, to alphanumeric. So there is a usability problem here, and I haven't seen so many websites using this hack. So if to the input you add basically a pattern, right, it's a regular expression, you will get a truly numeric keypad on iOS. So that's pretty useful because even you can mix this with input type password. So if you use input type password and the same pattern, the same regular expression, you will get a PIN, for example, for a bank account or something like that. And it's much easier to type than using and to validate than using the default input type number on iOS. In this case, this video is iOS 6, but it's the same for iOS 7. Well, again, the same example for password, right? Using the password, you can get the PIN, numeric PIN. So rich editor, this is not new, but maybe it's new for most of you. I have to say that this was an invention of Internet Explorer. So you can add a content editable Boolean attribute to any HTML element. I'm not sure if you're aware of this. On HTML5, it will basically convert that particular element, in this case a list, into an editable list. So the user can add elements to the list and change the text of those elements. On iOS, on Android, this is Chrome, by the way. On Chrome, you will get the keyboard. Even if it's not a form input type, you will get the keyboard and the user can add elements there. And on iOS, iPhone, or iPad, right, you can add items, and you can see that there is a very nice feature for free. If I make a selection, right, like that, I can add bold, italic, or underline, right? So that menu appears for free, right, automatically when you are using content editable. So this is like a rich editor for mobile phones, right? If you're asking, okay, how can I get the value, or there are any events? Well, it's not a form input type, so there is no onChange event. So you need to figure out how you're going to take the changes. It can be a save button, or you can use on key press, so you are reading every change. Okay. So this is background tab resurrection, or I would like to call it the zombie tab. So it's only for iPad, also for iPhone, but let's talk about iPad first. So this is the idea, right? So I will share this presentation with you later. If you open a tab, right, like this, like that tab that is changing the title, what happens when you go to another tab? All the tabs that are in the background are basically inactive, right? Are frozen. Okay? Did you know that? So they look like tabs on desktop, but they don't act like tabs on desktop. So how can we resurrect a tab that is in the background? So I found a solution. It's a hack. It's a really weird hack, but here is the example, and it's working. So you see that it's changing, but it's still the active. So now it's in the background, and it's still working, right? So do you remember Marquee, right? Or maybe Font Family? Well, from the same era of the web development, do you remember the meta refresh? Well, for this hack, I'm using the meta refresh. So basically, for example, I can say, okay, I want the page to be refreshed every 2 seconds, right? So, and somehow, even if all your JavaScript, all your page is frozen because it's in the background, Safari will honor the refresh meta tag. And after the refresh operation, your page is alive again. It's running again, okay? So the question is, how can we stop the refresh operation while we are the active tab? Okay, so now on iOS 7, we have the page visibility API. It's an API where there are some events that we can use to get the moment where our tab is going to the background. But if we want to be compatible with iOS 6 too, this is the second part of the hack. It's a little JavaScript that basically, in this case, every 1 second, be careful because set interval is in milliseconds and the refresh meta tag is in seconds. So half of that value, I'm basically resetting the content. So the content is basically that 2 value. So every time you reset the content, I'm shifting the refresh operation. So if I'm in the front, I'm shifting the refresh operation so it never happens. When it goes to the background, now the JavaScript is not being executed anymore. So this set interval is not being executed anymore. There is no shifting operation. The refresh happens. And then it's alive. Okay? This is the problem, right? So now we will have a lot of tabs. And even we can do this on iOS, on iPhone. And you can have tabs, and a tab from the background can resurrect and send you alert messages. Right? So, a disclaimer, I'm not responsible for this first. This works only from iOS 6.1, right? So, and I'm not responsible for all those crappy websites that will send you alerts from the background from now on. So, images for different screen densities. So we have covered already the problem of different screen densities for Canvas, okay? But we have the same problem with pictures, right? We have this problem when we are zooming in on pictures, and we have this problem with the same idea that we have covered before. So we have the problem with the different pixel radius available. So solution number 1 is to use some vector-based solutions like SVG. You can use SVG as an image source. You can use SVG as a tag, as an HTML5 element, and insert SVG there. Or you can use font face. That's basically CSS web fonts. And basically you can create an icon gallery as a font. And because these are vector-based files, they will render properly on each resolution. You don't need to provide different versions, right? So this is the case when you're using a GIF file or a JPEG file or a PNG file, right? When you zoom in there, you get that crappy logo. And when you're using SVG or font face, you get that nice logo, okay? So then we can use JavaScript to query about this property, device pixel radio, and basically change the file. Because, by the way, delivering always a high resolution image, it's not a solution. So because you can send a high resolution image always, and basically it will work everywhere. The problem is that usually devices with lower resolution, like this Firefox OS, has less memory, less battery because it's a cheaper phone. And that means if you are sending a big file, you are harming performance. You are using more memory, more CPU to decode the file. So that's not a good idea. So we need to send different bitmap files per device. Solution number 3 works on iOS only for now. It's an extension on CSS. It's called CSS image set. So on CSS, you can use this. It's working from iOS 6, image set, and you send 2 different pictures, one from non-retina and one from retina. Right? Only for iOS. And for the others, basically, maybe you know this, it's using background images, right, on CSS for low resolution, and using media queries saying, okay, if your pixel ratio is 1.5, then I want to change to a high resolution version. Okay, and you need to define a background size. It doesn't matter why now. The problem with this is that we have different prefixes. WebKit, Mozilla, Opera, rest in peace, and even the standard version that works on Chrome now, Chrome on Android. So this is how it's going to work in the future as a standard way with mean resolution. So for now, we need to, by the way, Opera is not using like a float value, it's using a fraction for the same thing. So you need to use this idea, okay, to deliver the high resolution for cover all the possible platforms. By the way, on IE, there is no way to do that on CSS yet. They don't support the mean device pixel ratio property. Even on IE 11, it's not there. Always query on ranges. There are a lot of websites out there, I hope not yours, using this media query. Device pixel ratio equals 2. That means Retina devices on iOS, right? iPhone 4, iPhone 5, iPad Retina, iPad Air. The problem is that, for example, if you're querying on 2, the Galaxy S4 users are not getting the high resolution version because it's free. Or the BlackBerry 10 users are not getting the high resolution version because it's 2, 2, 4, 3, 5, 8, 9 is a regular value. So you always need to query about ranges. So you can say mean something and a value. So from 1.7 to wherever, right? So from 2, from 3, from 1.5, not just 1.5. And find the balance because remember, for example, for the Galaxy S4, it's pixel ratio 3. The final picture will be 9 times bigger, right? So even if you're using more JPEG compression, maybe the file is not 9 times bigger in terms of kilobytes. But on memory, it's a bitmap, and it will use 9 times the original size. So be careful and find the balance between quality and performance when you are sending high-resolution images. So part number 2 of hacks, device interaction hacks. Media capture. Media capture is, do you remember the input type file, the old input type file? Well, we have now a solution to use this input type file to use a media capture, to take a picture from the camera, right? So on iOS, if you use the accept attribute, it will work. I didn't set up the Wi-Fi yet. So is there a Wi-Fi there? Yeah. Okay. Because for showing you a demo, it's nice to have Wi-Fi, but we can check that later. On iOS, it will work, right? It will ask you if you want the picture of the video from the camera or from the gallery. It works from iOS 6. And on Android and other platforms, you can also add this extension to HTML that is called media capture, HTML media capture, that says capture camera or microphone. And instead of asking you if you want from the gallery or from the camera, it will just open the camera. It works on Android, BlackBerry, Firefox OS, right? And you get the camera, the user takes a picture, and you get the picture. Where? You can get the picture on the server if you send the form using Post, or you can get the picture using JavaScript. Because most of these platforms support the file API, and you can get that picture and manipulate the picture in JavaScript, right? So you can get images from the user in this way. So if you check Facebook, for at least for iPad, I'm not sure about iOS, not the app, but the website, Facebook on the iPad, is using that when you publish a picture. So you say, okay, publish a picture is using this hack. It's a feature more than a hack. Well, the live demo requires Wi-Fi. So interactive with native apps. Have you seen this when you access a website? So maybe you Google something and you click on the link, and then the website says, hey, download my app. Get my app that is better than my website that you want to access. Well, there is a website, right? I don't want your beautiful app. That is basically a campaign to avoid this kind of stuff, because it's a real problem for usability. And let's see how to solve this. Did you use that technique on one website, like forcing the user to download an app on a website? No. Okay. Well, don't do that, right? That's the solution number one. Solution number two, on iOS, there is something called smart app banners. Have you seen those? Basically, you can add this meta tag that will give. You need to give the ID of your app on the App Store, and when you open the website, Safari will open a banner, right, that the user can dismiss, that where you can say install or view. So it detects if the app is already installed or not, and it's non-intrusive, right? You can also send arguments from the website to your own app. So for example, when you open the app, you are seeing the same content, right? The same article, the same picture, or wherever. You can do this on Windows too, right? On Windows 8, not on Windows Phone yet. You say, this is always the same application ID app, and then you get the package name from Visual Studio. And how it looks like on IE 10 or 11. If you look at that particular icon that has changed on IE 11, you have this little plus icon saying that there is something. And when you get there, you say, get app for this site, for example. So it's an app that is available for that site. And when the app is already installed, it allows you to switch to the app, right? And you can also send arguments as in the iOS version. Unfortunately, no API, so no JavaScript API to know if the app is there or not, and no Android solution for this yet. But the last solution for this problem is to use a custom protocol. On most platforms, if you have your own native app, you can register yourself to a custom protocol. For example, Twitter. If you have this link on a website and the user has Twitter installed, the native app, it will open the native app, and in this case, it will open the post message and it will include that text on the dialog. It will not send the message, right? The user needs to send the message. But the problem is that if you don't have installed Twitter on iOS, you will get message like this. And so that's the problem, right? And it's not so easy because Safari says, I don't know what Twitter protocol means because the app is not installed. So, and there is no API to know if an app is installed or not. So how can we solve this? So it's a trick. So basically we go to Twitter using location href. So not with a link. And set a timer of 1 second or any other value. So basically, if the protocol is working, that means that your website will be in the background, so there will be no JavaScript execution. Okay? So your timeout will never execute, at least until you come back to Safari. But if Twitter is not installed, because it's not being open, then your JavaScript is still executing. So then you can make a set timeout that goes to a post HTML that says, okay, it seems like you don't have Twitter installed. Do you want to install it? And the error message will get out when you make a location href, will get out of the user. So you get like 1 millisecond of that message that appears and then disappears. On Chrome, instead of having an alert dialog, you have a website that says that it's not available. So when it's Chrome, instead of doing the last part, because when you click, it will go to another HTML, you need to use an iframe for Chrome. If you use an iframe, then you can make the same detection. It's really weird. Remember, we are trying to break the limits on HTML5 here. Okay, push notification. How many of you know what push notification means? Okay, most of you. Basically, when an app is closed and you can send messages from the server. I'm not sure if you're aware that the new Mavericks OS from Mac now Safari on Mavericks now has push notification for websites. So a website can register for notifications. It's not on iOS yet. However, on iOS, there is something called the passbook, right? So have you tried passbook? So passbook is basically a JSON file with information. And you can, on your website, you can link to a passbook file, right? The passbook looks like this, so you can use this for cards and point cards and something like that. And the thing is that all these cards that you are sending, these passbooks, they have automatic updates on by default. That means push notifications. So from your server, you can, if the user installed that passbook, you can then send notifications from your server, even if you don't have any native app. Right? So it's like a hack to allow the user to install something that then you can send notification to the OS. Okay? So enhancing your app hacks. These are quick hacks. So iOS home screen title. So when you add a website to the home screen, any website, doesn't matter if it's a website or a web app, you select add to home screen, look at this, right? WTF mobile we. So it basically, it's using your title by default, right? But your title might not fit into the space on iOS. So to solve that problem, right, and why we are using we cannot change the title because we're using the title for SEO, right, for Google. So I don't want to use a short title. So to solve the problem, there is an undocumented meta tag, right? And I discovered this meta tag. Don't ask me why or how. But if you use Apple-Web App title as a meta tag and you add something here, it will use this title and not the title element when you're adding this to the home screen. Remember, any website can be added to the home screen, even a desktop website. So if you have a long title that maybe you have, now you can go and add this meta tag, right? Because it will be better for your product to have the right thing on the iOS and not just keywords that you're using for SEO, right, and on the title. Changing the tint on iOS 7. So on iOS 7, I'm not sure how many of you are on iOS 7, but you have, so it's using this tint. Can you see here that the background is taking the red and the background is taking the yellow? Well, by default, basically your background color is used by the tint. So how can you have one color for the tint and one color for your real background to make some kind of a match with your mark, with your logo or something like that? So by default, it will always take your background color. So this is the hack. If you have a background color and a background image at the same time, the color will be used for the tint and the image will be used for the body. Right? And if you don't want to use an image, you can use a gradient. That's an image function. And in this case, it's a gradient that is not a gradient. It's basically green and green. So basically, I'm getting a full green for the body and a blue for the tint. Okay? It works for iPad too. Live tile for i10. So on i10, you can click on the pin icon at the bottom and pin a website to the start menu. When you pin the website, right, this is how it looks like when you click on the pin icon, it goes to the home screen, right? And to do that, you need to use these meta tags, right? You need to select the tile image and the color of the tile. So you are selecting this background color and the icon. By default, if you are not defining the color, it will try to guess the main color in the icon. But I said live tile, that is, i.e. live tile. So I have just received information that I will show you later, that budget guide to Helsinki. And that's not a lie. I have just received that. So there is an app that knows that I'm in Helsinki right now and has sent me a guide. So we are creating a live tile. So I want the tile, that icon in the home screen, the start screen of Windows, to be updated. So you can select, you can add this MS application badge that will go to an XML. The XML will have information for the badge. And automatically, IE will take this frequency and will get that XML all the time. It will pull that XML and change that number or even some icons. On IE11, it's even better because you can even change the icon, the full tile, the text and the icon on IE11. So I'm talking about the website, not an app, right? A website, when the website is pinned to the start screen, can then send notifications to the user. Storage limits. How many of you have played with WebSQL or local storage? Okay, few. So you know there are some limits there, right? Like, for example, on local storage, it's 5 megs. But basically, because JavaScript is storing strings in Unicode 16, or UTF-16, it's taking 2 bytes per character. It looks like 2.5 megabytes, really. So can we lift those limits to store more information on these APIs? Well, we can do it with some hacks using different domains or subdomains, iframe, and an API called Cross-Document Messaging API. And you can see this website. You can try it later. It's called filldisk.com, right? I think it even has sound. I'm not sure if I have recorded the sound. No. So basically, it will just fill your disk with cats, images of cats. And you can stop the madness clicking there. But basically, it's using this hack to show that you can lift the limit of 2.5 megabytes. Okay? Be careful, because some browsers now, because of this hack or bug or wherever, they are trying to add a second limit. So, okay, they say, okay, we add 5 megabytes per host, but we are adding a second limit per domain and subdomains, like 25 megas. So in the future, it might not work. And think about, why do you need more space, right? Maybe 5 megabytes is enough for a website. Finally, tools. So I'm not sure if you're using simulators, real devices for testing, but you can use bandwidth simulators. So you can simulate a real 3G, 4G, or 2G connection, right? For Windows, you have the net limiter. For Mac, there is a Slowy app, and also Charles Proxy that works both Windows, Mac, also on Linux. And you can throttle your connection. So you can say, okay, I'm in 3G, okay? And even you can change the quality of the 3G. And you can measure exactly how your website looks like on a real 3G connection. Virtual mobile apps. Not sure how many of you have played with this before, but from Nokia and Samsung, you have free services where you can use real devices remotely, right? On the case of Nokia now, it's there are some Symbian still, and Windows Phone and Asha. And on Android, on Samsung, you have Android and Bada devices. As you can, well, I think Bada is not there anymore. You can reserve these devices for an hour or 3 hours, and you're using real devices remotely. Yeah, even the Nokia devices, they are here in Finland, and they have even a phone number that you can call. Right? It's a Finland number. And there are other commercial solutions, right? But I'm showing you here the free solutions. Keynote Device Anywhere has a commercial solution and also a free solution, that is the one that you are seeing here. You can use just 10 devices that are available for you for 10-minute sessions. If you need more, just pay for them. Right? But that's the free version. So you have Samsung's, Lumia's, Galaxy, iPhone 5, iPhone 4, and again, these are not emulators, are real devices, right? So if somebody is using a device, you cannot get on the device. You need to wait, right? It's a limited resource. KeynoteDeviceAnywhere.com. And for the last tool, what are the most used key combinations that you are using while you are coding? Maybe. But I'm not talking about these combinations. Maybe I'm talking about this combination, right? Alt-Tab, refresh, right? So changing a code, right? Go into the browser and refresh. How many times have you done that, right? So I want to show you a new idea, and there is a tool that is working pretty well, but there are other tools in the same category that is live reload. With this tool, you have livereload.com. You can try that. There is a Mac version and an alpha Windows version. Basically, when you save the file on your editor, it reads your file system. It detects that you have changed something there, and it will reload your browser automatically, mobile or desktop browser. So if you have the phone with you, right, you just save, and you look at the phone, and it's reloaded, right? So even on some changes like CSS, the page is not reloaded, just it's changing the CSS. So it's like when you're debugging and changing CSS on the browser, but on the real file. Okay, so try these tools. Okay, wrapping up the hacking part. We need hacks because browsers are different. There are no enough information usually for browsers, undocumented features. And usually browsers are buggy, right? And if you don't believe me, look at my post on iOS 7 bugs, right? It has like 300 unique views, right now, about the big bugs on iOS 7. Now on 7.03, they have solved some of them, not all of them. However, remember that usability and performance matter, so be careful when you're using hacks, right? Test them. Your app should work anyway if the hack is not working. So try to use feature detection or progressive enhancement. So because maybe in a new version of the same OS, the hack is not working anymore. So be careful and try to keep your app alive. Okay? Do you know this guy? No? Doesn't look like a mobile developer. So he said that change is the only constant, right? A few centuries ago. And that's basically the definition for the mobile development, right? So you only know that everything is going to change. So have that in your mind. And because everything is going to change, then is when we end into the glass experience, right? That I have here on my head. So let me look at this. This is me signing a book, right? This is the first time I can basically record a signing process, how signing a book looks like from the author's perspective, right? That's in California. So this is an example of what you can do with the class, right? Not just pictures and videos, but also sending content. Like, for example, the app that has just sent me the budget guide to Helsinki. And I can enter here. I will try to show you here what's happening here. Okay. Let's first talk about some myths about the class. First, it's not a full augmented reality device. So as you can see here, it's not over my side. And now I'm looking at you and not at the class, right? It's not over covering my view. It's just a part of my view. Some guys or some of you might think that it's like the evolution, right, of the mobile phones. And the thing is that right now it's not like that. So it's not like everything I can do with the phone I can do with this. So it's trying to get into a new category, and that means that it's different. So it's not just a phone in my head or on my head. And if you're creating an app or a game for class, at the first time it seems okay. It's easy. Just make a background transparent, and that's all, right? It's not how to make something for glass. Usually, everybody thinks that, okay, all those notifications are now on my head. The thing is that it's not like that, right? So it's not like it will bother you all the time with something. And your content on the glass, it's not so important. So the guide I have just received, it may, it's possible, now it's on my glass, but it's possible that I will never use it, right? So it's some specs. It's this version, right? Because at the end of November, a new version is going to be released by Google, like version 2. There are no specs yet, but there are some ideas. So it looks like a projection. So it's a projection, really, right? And it looks like something that is, for example, in this case, right now, in the wall. For me, it's in the wall. It's like 2.5 meters. And I'm looking at the projection there at the top, right? That's the idea. If it's on, you will see that I have a light here. And even if it's on, I'm not looking at the glass right now. If I look at the glass, you will see that I'm looking up, right? So now I'm using the glass, right? So I have my email. I have Laurie's messages. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? So it has some sensors. For example, it has the accelerometer and gyroscope, so I can move my head. For example, I can make a very natural movement to turn it on. Right? Now it's on. Right? Very natural. It also has light, ambient sensors, typical mobile sensors. It has a camera, of course. It has a multi-touch panel, so this is multi-touch. I can use 2 fingers or 1 finger. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. It has Android inside. And it has even, let me show you this in the camera. There is a sensor that is not used yet. Do you see that black line there? This one? There? That's an eye tracker. It's a little sensor, a little camera that is looking to my eye all the time. It seems it's not being used right now. Okay. So remember, this is just a quick introduction to the glass platform. And it has also a bone conduction transducer. What's that? That I can hear videos, so I can talk to the glass and the glass is answering to me without anything on my ear, right? It's vibrating behind my ear, on the bone, right? Over the bone. Because the volume is not so good when there is, so here with all of you at this silence, it will work. But if I am on the street, maybe it's not working. That's why the second version will come with the mono optional ear pad that you can add. So let's try to make a quick demo. Do you want a demo? Have you tried a glass before? No? No one? Okay. Sorry, what? No. Right now I have the option until, I think I have 3 weeks. I can select 3 lucky winners of an option to buy one. So I receive an email from Google saying, okay, you have 3 weeks and you can select 3 guys that with the requisites, that means US citizens and blah, blah, blah. So let's see if it's working properly. Hopefully it will work. So I'm plugging the glass in, right? Let me look for this. Here you are. See if it's working. Okay, here we are. So this is what I'm looking at right now. So there is a difference. It's not a black background, it's transparent. So that's the only difference, right? So here you can see what I was talking before and he was getting my talk. So here is the budget guide Juhelsinski, right? So I can get in and say read more. I'm not sure what I will get here, But text, boring. Let's see what else do we have here. Read aloud. So if I click here, now it's talking to me. You're not going to hear that, never, because it's on my bone, right? Okay, shut up. And then I can share, get directions, I don't know where, and exploring. Oh, I think it's sending me to one place, and then to other place, and then to other place. That's the idea. So let's say, okay, get directions. I don't know where, but okay, we are pretty near. Oh, it's searching for GPS yet. But basically, because we are indoor, but it should work anyway. I can also say by bus or drive or walk, right? So now I'm walking, right? And look at this. I'm moving my head, right? And it's updating. So there is a lag in the animation, but that's basically the USB cable transfer, data transfer. So here it's pretty good, right? So I'm walking, right? But again, this is using Google Maps, so be careful using Google Maps here, or I should be careful. So basically, I can walk in the street and it will tell me. It's like a mini augmented reality, right? So I can say even here I can say OK class. And you will see it give you a menu. I can say show route overview, and now it's showing me the full route. And I say OK class, stop directions, and now it's stopping the GPS, right? And of course you have seen this like OK class, take a picture. Okay, smile. There you are. And from here I can share this online, right? So I'm pretty sure you have seen most of this. That's my hotel, basically. And by the way, I have never told Google or the Glass which hotel I'm in, right? So Google took that information from my Gmail account. So he has the confirmation email from the hotel, and he sent information to my Glass. The same happens with airlines, flights, FedEx and DHL packages. So it will track your packages automatically. So it's basically Google Now. If you have Google Now, if you can see Google Now before, it's basically the same thing. So I have weather here, 6 attractions nearby, right? So it's recommending attractions nearby. So I will not speak Finnish. Museum, blah, blah, blah. The zoo and the National Theater. Right? So now I want you to talk about, okay, we are developers, right? How we are going to develop apps for the Glass. Now I'm going back to the presentation, right? Just a quick introduction of how we can create apps here. So there are two options, we will have two options. The native GDK Glass Development Kit for native apps that is not available yet, right? That it will be based on the Android SDK, so Java, and the Mirror API. That's the one available right now. The Mirror API is a cloud-based API, so you are going to develop apps. So the app that sent me the guide is basically PHP or Java or .NET. So it's a server-side app, right? That basically is sending push messages to the Google Cloud. Then the Google Cloud send the content to the Glass. And then if I'm interacting with the Glass, so for example, I'm saying, okay, I have seen this landmark, send me to the next one. The action goes to the Google Cloud, and the Google Cloud using HTTP or HTTPS will ping your server with a JSON file with information. There are APIs for that. And so we can change the information that the app is showing me in the Glass. So this is how you install an app in Glass today. It was announced that there will be an app store or something like that on the Glass itself. But today it's like installing an app on Facebook, right? It's like getting a website, and on the website I basically select the app I want to install and say, okay, I give permission to the app to access my class. In the case of CNN, then I can customize what kind of info I want. In fact, before getting here, I have received a notification from CNN. I can show you that because it's really funny. It was there. I'll try to find it first. By the way, how it works, it's a timeline, right? So when you turn this on the first time, it's the present. That's why you have the time. Then I have my past on my back and my future on my front. So you are my future right now. So if I have something from my future, for example, the hotel, the weather, it's from you to me. Something from the past is from my back. So I can go fast and see all the things that happens yesterday on my timeline. Let me search for the CNN. Where are you? Here. CNN Tech. So she had a fine for driving with Google Glass in California. The great thing is that I know her. She's from Uruguay, but he lives in California. And in this case, the CNN News, it's a video. So I can play the video and I will hear the video only. And this is streaming the video from, in this case, is using my 3G connection. And now I'm seeing the video that looks perfect, right? Here, remember, there is a lag, but it works perfect. It's basically a CNN video, right? Sometimes they have also the video, read more and read aloud. So read more, give me more text information, right? Okay. So that's the timeline, right? Past, now, and future. I already did the demo. So the timeline has cards. That's the unit, right? Every rectangle is a card, and you will send the card as HTML or as text in a JSON format from your web server. That's how you develop apps for Glass today. And you have menu items, actions, right? For example, share, navigate to, for the one that I have received from the Helsinki guide, read aloud, delete, voice call. I can call from the Glass, reply. And reply is really funny because the reply opens dictation mode. And I can say something and you will receive on your server the audio file and also the transcribed text as a string. View website, for example, because it has a browser, right? Let me show you the browser because I think it's the next thing we are going to see. Before that, an app for Glass that is called Glassware the app can get my location all the time. For example, the app that sent me the guide, right? To send me information about where I am, in this case, a guide. An app can also be invoked from the browser. And let me show you the browser. And that's the last thing, don't worry. So how can I browse the web? There are two ways. One is to Google from here. So I can Google something, like Finland. By the way, the recognition is pretty good because it's using my bone. So now it's talking to me. It's Wikipedia information, right? But shut up. I can say view website. And now it's open in the browser. So if you want to know more about the browser, media queries to serve this, there is a post on my blog too. And HTML5 compatibility for the class. So here is by default, it's loading the mobile version, right? So I can scroll. But the question is, how can I click? For example, like I want to click on the Estonia. How can I click there? You say, no, right? So the way to do that looks really weird, right? From your point of view. So I will use two fingers here, and now you can see there is a pointer. Can you see the pointer? And now I will move my head, right, around the page, right? And now I can click Helsinki there. So I can say, okay, select link, and now it's loading that. So that's how you browse the web today with the glass. I warned you that it looks weird. So here I have more information about the browser. So you can scroll or point and click. There is a mobile user agent. You have here the width and the pixel radio if you want to target it from media queries, for example. And it supports video, audio, and HTML device motion. That's the API for the accelerometer. So from JavaScript, I can get head movement from the user. So I can create a JavaScript game, an HTML5 game for glass that I can, do something with my head. Okay? I have scroll and touch events. I'm not sure why, but there is no camera or geolocation APIs yet on the browser. Well, I already told you that we can have the geolocation there. The OK Glass menu, an app can also be there, right, in the OK Glass menu. But this is just starting. So for the glass, it's really important that you understand that it's not a mobile phone in your head. You need to understand this idea of the timeline, and it should be content that it's in smart content for me. Maybe I will see that content, maybe not, because maybe it's been accumulated in my past. It's an infinite past, right? You have the Mirror API right now to send me information from your server that I can interact with. On the future, we will be able to create offline apps that works directly and natively on the glass. And we can also create JavaScript apps on HTML5 apps, right, for the browser. Remember that right now, the glassware is basically cloud-based. And this is just the beginning. This is the first prototype. This is just starting. The latest news says that the final product from end users will be in a year, right? So now Google is releasing the second preview version, but it's still, they are opening for more people. Right now, it seems we are around 10,000 in the world, 9,992 in California. And now they are opening this to more developers with the new version. I'm pretty sure the new version will have better CPU because sometimes it's a bit slow. But they say that from next month, they will replace, if we want, our glasses for free with the new glass. That was all, basically. By the way, I will be doing the workshop next Tuesday, not Monday at Tallinn. I'm not sure if there are tickets, but it will be a full-day workshop there on mobile HTML5. Any question? Yeah. I don't know, maybe. So the battery life right now, it's not so good. It's about 4 hours. But again, this is the first prototype. This is even handmade, right? So just think about what will happen with this. Comes from Samsung, LG, created by millions. So it will be much better than this one. So the battery it's an issue, and I think this is my point of view. If this device if the battery lasts 10 or maybe 20 times more, the whole device will be different. Because, and this is my vision, not from Google directly, but if this battery can last a week, maybe not for a week, but it will last a day, and it will record my whole day, audio and video, right? It will be recording all the time. And for what? Well, then I can go back in my history, in my timeline, to see something. I've seen an advertisement on the street, and now I can go back to there and think about this. Google is good at what? Search, right? I'm pretty sure we will be able to search on our own previous conversations. Real conversations, right? Not chat conversations. So I think that's the vision of the device, right? I'm not sure yet if how society will react, right, to the device. So I don't know. Any other question? Yeah.
What about the eye tracking camera? I would assume that's going to be used for selecting or using the cursor.
Okay, I will repeat the question for the recording. So the question was, what about the eye tracking camera, if it's going to work? I think yes. That's why it's there. So the hardware is there, but somehow Google is testing this thing and it's not ready yet. But if you root the device, right, because it's an Android device, you can root it. If you root the device, there are already some apps that you can install that use the eye tracking. For example, there is an app that I do this and it takes a picture, right, without turning the device on, right? So technically you can do that. But Google is trying to be slow with some things. That's why they have said that there will be no face recognition on the glass, but it's obvious that it's going to get face recognition at one point. But right now it's trying to not add more noise to this. So I think the same happens with the eye tracking. But let me give you another idea. Google has a new patent on the US that do you know AdWords, right? So paying for banners that users are clicking, where it's like something like that for advertisement on newspapers and on the street. So the patent says that Google can charge you as Coca-Cola, only for people really seeing your advertisement on the newspaper. And how do they know that you really saw the advertisement? Eye tracking, right? Camera and eye tracking. So that's a patent they have.
Okay. By the way, thank you for the presentation. It's awesome. Rewinding me back to the earlier part of the discussion. So give us a few words about sort of your perspective to PhoneGap and Cordova versus the sort of website discovered sort of app.
So the question is some kind of analysis between native web development or using PhoneGap or whatever other solution, or PhoneGap specifically or Apache Cordova versus doing just website or web apps. Okay, but that's why I'm saying it's not just PhoneGap versus website. It's native web development. It can be PhoneGap or wherever other platform. So you have advantages and disadvantages, right? So sometimes I think that we are getting to a point that we are having too many apps for things that we don't need. For example, when I arrived this morning at Helsinki airport, there were a big advertisement at the airport saying, hey, download our app, the airport app. So, and I was wondering, do I need an app for every airport I'm arriving? Why do I need an app, right, for everything? So maybe if I need something from the Helsinki airport, right, that's the idea of the web, right? I go to the website, right? But I'm not sure I need an app for that. Unless, I don't know, I'm a really frequent flyer, I'm going 3 times per week there or something like that, then I need push notifications or wherever. But if not, I'm not sure. Sometimes now we are doing more apps than I think it's worth. So main differences between creating an app and staying with a website or a web app is basically discoverability. So some people right now are looking for services or apps on the App Store, right? Because that's the business of the app stores. But for example, Financial Times, they have replaced completely their native app with the web app. But they are a media, so they have a way to communicate users how to get the app. But if you are small, right, and you are trying to get new customers, maybe having a website only, it's not so easy as having an app. But it depends on what you're doing, right? What kind of service are you providing? In fact, for example, on Apple will reject your app if it looks like a website. So if it's a website app, in PhoneGap, it will reject the app. It's not clear when the website becomes an app, right? But if it looks like a website in terms of it looks like links, underlined links, and zoom in and something like that, they will say, okay, this is a website. Keep it as a website, not as an app. So right now we are in the process that we don't know yet where are we going to, right? So a lot of companies, they have the same question. So there are companies just doing everything they can, right? Like New York Times, for example, they have a native app, a web app, a mobile website, a desktop website. So use wherever you want. Other companies, they're just deciding how their users should access their service.
Thanks for the presentation. My question is about web apps, and if you have any thoughts or hacks or anything about multi-touch events, like if you want to do, for example, custom event, how you would track that? Is there some way to make it feel native?
Let me bring the Wi-Fi here. It's the guest, so I can show you something. It's C5. Okay, yeah. Because HTML5 guest.
Would you put that for a Google Blast to be available?
But how can you type something here like the Wi-Fi password? So I can do it from my phone, or I can create a QR code with the Wi-Fi password. And then in the future, if Glass happens, then this place will have the QR code for the Wi-Fi. So you take a picture of the QR code, and it will set up the Wi-Fi automatically. So now we have a Wi-Fi. Let me see. Let me first, because we are here, an example of a web app working. This is the iPad. Let me jump to the iPhone. So let me show you the Financial Times example here. Thank you, by the way. So I will go to the website. It's app. Oh, come on, I can't type. .ft.com, right? When you get into the website, for now it's a website, but now it's inviting me to add this to the home screen, right? So I will add it to the home screen. Now I have an icon, right? In fact, it's not the first time I demo this. And now I know what you're thinking if you have never played with this. It's like a shortcut to the website, right? But it's not, right? When I open this, it's full screen. So there is no browser UI, and it's not like it's there hidden, right? So there is no browser UI, there is no URL bar. It's a full screen app with gestures and all the stuff they have. In fact, in terms of the OS, it looks like a different app, right? So you have Safari and you have the Financial Times. So that's the web app. I'm not using the App Store. So basically, I can do something that you have never played with, that is porn, right? So you can do sex websites or web apps for iOS using this technique, because it's not for, you cannot do that on iOS. By the way, Playboy, the magazine, is not on the App Store because it wasn't approved by Apple. So their solution is basically a web app. And about your original question about multi-touch, I'm not sure if this will answer the question, but there is a framework, an open source framework called Hammer.js, that it will help you with detecting multi-touch events, right, on different platforms, including Windows Phone that are using different events like swipe, touch and hold, and wherever. Who asked? Was something like that or not?
I've tried this, but like if you want to do, for example, your own.
Okay, so you want to do your own gesture, like make an S over the screen. No, I don't remember any library for that. But there are some JavaScript libraries to do that with the mouse, so you need to just copy that idea. It's not so difficult. Basically, you need to first use the touch move event and recollect an array of all the coordinates of the user. And then there are some algorithms already there that will compare two arrays. So basically, you have your first pattern, and you send this new pattern, and it will compare and it will give you a percentage. So it will say, okay, it's 90% the same. So you decide, okay, it looks like an S. But try to think on some framework on that. I think no. I remember that I add something to my book. This is not advertisement of my book, but I can even search for it on the PDF of the book. I remember that I have a link with a JavaScript library that was not for mobile, but you can use it for pattern recognition. So you can do something like that. But there is no, even if you look at different websites, there are not so many websites or even apps having complex patterns, right? You need to teach the user for that, and for usability purposes, sometimes it's not the best idea. Any other question on HTML5, mobile, class?
I'm not sure if you mentioned that or if I just missed it. Is there any simulator for the Google class?
No, I haven't mentioned it because this was just a very short version of a bigger talk I have on class. The answer is yes and no at the same time. Unfortunately, there is something called the Playground that is like an official simulator. Developers google.com/playground, where you can basically play with the cards. So you can design the card and see how it looks like. Then there are unofficial solutions. One to simulate the Google's cloud. It's called, I don't remember. And there is, let me open another talk. Maybe this one from Zurich. This is a long talk on Google Glass. So I can show you the. Oh, this is the problem I was showing you on. I'm not sure why, but Keynote has been updated today on my Mac, and all my presentations are broken, basically, the backgrounds. So let me look for that particular, this one. So you have this Synology for Android. So this is basically the Glass APIs that you can run on an Android phone. I mean, it's not the same, right? And the Mirror API emulator, both are in GitHub. It's an emulator of the Google Cloud. So you can have your own cloud to test if the information goes on one side and the other side, and your app works correctly. But at the end, unfortunately, you will need like a class to understand the experience, to see if the sizes you are using are okay for the class, for the experience. Unfortunately, it's not available for everyone yet. You had a question, or you are finishing the talk?
No, we can go as long as you like. So first of all, thanks for a very inspiring talk, or actually two talks, both were excellent. So the question relates to the first talk. So how have you come up with all the interesting hacks, and what is the next limit that you're going to break on HTML5?
So how? Just testing and thinking out of the box. How sometimes they were original questions I had from customers and problems I need to solve. Some others came from the book, so I started to think, okay, I'm talking about this, how can we do that and the other? Next imitation, I think it's push notification is one of the features that web apps, and so sometimes you are not going with a web app or with a website because you want to engage the user with notifications, and now you can do that with a website only by email, right? So requesting the email from the user. That I think is something that people are expecting from website. Besides that, it's all the idea of resolutions and all these hacks for multiple densities that the browsers or even the vendors are even discussing solutions for that. There are two right now possibilities. One is a new element called picture, and the one that it seems that will win, because I'm inside the discussion in the W3C for that is basically using the SRC as for the lower solution, and it will be something like SRC set. And so you will have like high for 2x, and then super high for 3x, or something like that. This is how it looks like it's going to be, the final solution. But we still have time for getting to browsers using the same solution, at least 3-4 years. So for now, we still need to deal with all those hacks and different versions for the same code. Okay?
Further questions?
Okay.
Okay, if not, let's give a big hand to Max.
Thank you.